10 minutes. That's all it was. 10 minutes where Alan's right hand went numb while stirring his tea. No pain, no fear, no drama. Just a mild clumsiness he brushed off with a shrug. A flicker, a glitch, a nothing. And then, 4 days later, everything changed. Alan collapsed on his driveway. Couldn't speak. Couldn't move the right side of his body. His wife screamed. The neighbors ran over. An ambulance came. But by the time he reached the hospital, life as he knew it had already vanished. His name is Alan. He's 66 years old. A builder. A grandfather. The kind of man who never took a day off, never liked fuss, never believed in seeing a doctor unless something was really wrong. And that moment in the kitchen, that brief flicker in his hand, that was his only warning. A whisper from his brain. A quiet knock on the door before the storm broke it down. But he missed it. And I don't want you, or anyone you love, to miss it too. My name is Dr. KDM. I'm a stroke physician. Every week, I meet people like Alan. Strong people. Busy people. People who had one brief chance to stop a stroke before it happened, but didn't realize what it was. Sometimes it's numbness. Sometimes it's dizziness, or confusion, or words slipping away like smoke. These signs pass quickly. You feel normal again. You tell yourself it was nothing. But what if it wasn't nothing? Because here's the truth. What Alan felt was called a TIA, a transient ischemic attack. It's often called a mini-stroke, but there's nothing mini about it. It's your brain crying for help and getting lucky. Just once. This video is here to show you exactly what that warning looks like, how to recognize it, and what to do if it ever happens to you or someone close to you. Because 10 minutes of numbness may be your brain's only chance to say, stop, pay attention, save me. Alan never liked drama. He was the kind of man who fixed his own roof, shoveled snow without complaint, and thought checkups were for people who had time to waste. So when his hand went numb for 10 minutes, he didn't even mention it to his wife. He just shook it off. It's probably just the way I slept, he thought. Maybe my elbow pinched a nerve. It felt odd, sure, but it wasn't painful. It didn't last. And when it vanished, so did his concern. 4 days later, he was in a hospital bed. He couldn't speak. His face drooped. His right leg wouldn't move. He could hear the doctors talking, but the words wouldn't form in his mouth. It was all happening fast. Too fast. That moment in the kitchen? That was the warning. The TIA, transient ischemic attack, was Alan's brain's way of saying, something's wrong. Danger's coming. But it came quietly. No alarms. No flashing lights. And that's what makes it so dangerous. Most people think strokes strike out of nowhere. And yes, sometimes they do. But in many cases, more than we'd like to admit. Your body gives you a brief, silent preview. A test run. And if you ignore it, you're not just taking a risk. You're giving up your chance to stop it. Instead of brushing it off, Alan could have walked into a hospital, asked for a scan, and started treatment. Fast-track care within 24 hours can cut the risk of a major stroke by as much as 75%. That's not theory. That's real-world data. So let me ask you, if your body whispered to you today, would you hear it? Or would you shrug it off, the way Alan did? To understand why a TIA matters, you have to understand what's happening inside your brain when it strikes. Imagine your brain as a busy city, full of roads. Those roads are your blood vessels. They carry oxygen and nutrients to every corner of that city, every second of every day. When one of those roads gets blocked, Even for just a few minutes, parts of the city go dark. That's a TIA. It usually happens when a small blood clot or a piece of plaque travels to the brain and briefly blocks the flow, just long enough to trigger symptoms. But then, the blockage clears on its own. Blood flow returns. Lights come back on. The city powers up again. And that's the trap. Because the symptoms fade, you think the danger is over. But the truth is, it's only just begun. A TIA is not harmless. It's not a fluke. It's a red flag waving from the deepest part of your body. It means your arteries are unstable. It means your blood is clotting in ways it shouldn't. It means a bigger, more permanent blockage could be just around the corner. In fact, 1 in 5 people who have a TIA will go on to have a major stroke within 90 days. Nearly half of those strokes happen in the first 48 hours. 2 days. That's all you might have. Still think it's something you can wait and see? A TIA is your brain giving you a second chance. Unlike a full stroke, a TIA leaves no permanent damage, if you act quickly. Think of it like smelling smoke before the fire. The flames haven't taken over yet. You still have time to grab the extinguisher. But if you ignore it, you could wake up one morning unable to speak, or move, or hold your grandchild's hand. So when something feels off, your speech, your balance, your vision, your arm, don't wait for the fire. Treat the smoke like a siren. Most people know the big signs of a stroke: slurred speech, a drooping face, a weak arm. But with a TIA, those signs are often softer, quieter, easier to dismiss. And that's exactly why they're so often missed. Let's walk through what these silent alarms might feel like. You're reading the paper, and suddenly the words look jumbled. You blink, rub your eyes, but the letters still don't make sense. 5 minutes later, everything looks normal again. You move on. You reach for your coffee, and your hand feels strange. Not painful, not weak, just not right. Maybe it's heavy or clumsy or a little numb. You shake it off. You try to speak, and the word comes out wrong. Not the one you meant to say. Or maybe your mouth won't form the shape you want. You feel embarrassed, but it passes. So you say nothing. Maybe your vision goes gray for a moment, like a curtain falling over one eye. Or your balance shifts suddenly. You stumble, catch yourself on the kitchen counter, tell yourself you must be tired. And here's the part that fools nearly everyone. The symptoms go away. That's the danger. When something serious fades fast, we tell ourselves it wasn't serious. We say, I didn't sleep well, or it's just my age, or that's probably my neck acting up again. But this isn't stress. It's not dehydration. It's not just getting older. It's your brain starving for oxygen. Many people in their 60s and 70s already live with health quirks. Numbness from arthritis, dizziness from medication, fatigue from poor sleep. So when a TIA hits, it blends in. It feels like more of the same. But here's the difference. A TIA is sudden, it's unusual, and it resolves within minutes to an hour. So ask yourself, was that moment normal for you? Or was it new, strange, unshakable? If it was new, even if it passed, your brain may have been waving a red flag. And one more thing. Some people shared in the comments that even when they went to the doctor, they were told to just watch it and sent home. But you don't have to settle for that. You can ask for more. You can request a CT scan, an MRI, a carotid ultrasound, because time is brain. And when something feels off, you are the first and most important advocate for your health. Don't let politeness cost you your future. Fiona was 59, a retired schoolteacher, calm, thoughtful, sharp as a tack. She'd never had high blood pressure, never smoked, never imagined herself at risk. One morning, sitting at the kitchen table with a book in her hand, something strange happened. The words on the page turned to gibberish. She blinked, rubbed her eyes, flipped back a page. But still, the letters didn't make sense. She described it later as a sentence full of symbols, like someone had scrambled the language. It lasted 5 minutes. Then, just as suddenly, everything returned to normal. She could read again. No headache, no weakness, no slurred speech. So, she told no one. 3 days later, Fiona had a stroke. This time, it wasn't temporary. It hit the language center of her brain. Her speech came out broken, her words misfired, her sentences incomplete. She knew what she wanted to say, but the sounds wouldn't come. Today, Fiona can walk and live independently, but conversations are a daily struggle. She fights to string her thoughts into words, and every time she picks up a book, she remembers that moment when the letters looked wrong. That unreadable page? That was her TIA. If she'd gone to the hospital, doctors might have found the narrowing in her carotid artery. They could have started her on blood thinners, maybe scheduled a procedure to open the artery. But she waited. She told herself it was probably a fluke. Maybe she was tired. Maybe it was stress. But it wasn't. And she's not alone. Many of you shared stories in the comments of parents, spouses, even pets, who showed strange symptoms days before a major stroke. A father who became impossible to wake up. A husband who seemed confused. A dog who recovered from a small stroke, only to have a fatal one the next day. Each time, the signs were there. Each time, they were brushed off as something else. So let me ask, have you ever seen someone act strangely and then shrug it off? Have you done it yourself? Because that one small, strange moment, whether it's a jumble of words or a hard-to-wake morning, could be your only warning. And this time, you know what it means. Here's the biggest mistake people make after a TIA. They wait. They feel a strange symptom, numbness, vision change, confusion. But then it fades. Their body feels fine again. So they tell themselves it must not have been serious. They go to bed. They go to work. They don't call a doctor. They don't mention it to their spouse. And the window to act begins to close. But here's the truth. The moment the symptoms stop is exactly when you need to move. Don't wait for them to come back. Don't wait until it's worse. Because after a TIA, the clock is ticking. The risk of a full stroke is highest in the first 2 days. Nearly half of all post-TIA strokes happen within 48 hours. That's not a guess. That's real-world data. So what should you do? You go to the hospital, immediately. Even if you feel totally normal now. Even if the episode lasted just 2 minutes. Even if your doctor's office is closed for the weekend. You need urgent imaging, a CT scan, or an MRI of your brain. You need a carotid ultrasound to check the arteries in your neck. You need an ECG or Holter monitor to look at your heart rhythm. And you need blood tests to assess clotting, cholesterol, and blood sugar. Because a TIA is never random, it's a sign that something's wrong with your arteries, your heart, or your blood flow, and that something can be fixed. Doctors might start you on aspirin or clopidogrel to prevent clots. They might prescribe statins to stabilize plaque. If your blood pressure's high, they'll treat it. If you have atrial fibrillation, they may give you blood thinners. If an artery is dangerously narrowed, They might recommend surgery or stenting, but none of this can happen if you stay home. And I get it. Some of you have shared that getting medical care in the U.S. feels overwhelming. The cost, the time, the fear of being brushed off. But here's what you need to know. Treating a TIA is far cheaper and far less life-changing than recovering from a stroke. Instead of months of rehab, you could be home the next day. Instead of losing speech, you keep your voice. Instead of a wheelchair, you keep your independence. So when the symptoms vanish, don't say, "I'm okay now." Say, "I've just been warned," and go. Let's say you've had a TIA, or you've seen someone close to you go through one. You made it through the scare. You saw the warning. You're here, still standing. Now what? Now is the moment to act, because your body just handed you a second chance. And what you do with it could mean everything. The good news? You don't need to overhaul your life overnight. Even small, consistent changes can cut your stroke risk in half. Here are 6 of the most powerful steps you can take. Starting today. 1. Quit smoking. If you smoke, your arteries are already under attack. Smoking narrows blood vessels, increases clotting, and damages the lining of your brain's circulation. But the moment you quit, your body starts healing. Within days, your blood pressure improves. Within weeks, your circulation gets stronger. It's never too late. 2. Lower your blood pressure. High blood pressure is the #1 cause of stroke. The problem? You can't feel it. It doesn't hurt. That's why it's called the silent killer. Get a home monitor. Check your numbers regularly. Aim for under 130/80, unless your doctor says otherwise. Control this, and you control your future. 3. Move more. You don't need a gym. You don't need fancy shoes. Just 30 minutes of walking, 5 days a week, reduces stroke risk by more than 25%. And if that feels like too much, start with 10 minutes a day. A recent guideline from the American Stroke Association shows that even short bursts of movement protect your brain. 4. Sleep better. Do you snore? Gasp at night? Wake up tired, even after 8 hours? You might have sleep apnea, a hidden risk factor for stroke. It causes your oxygen levels to dip throughout the night, putting strain on your heart and brain. Talk to your doctor. Get a sleep study. Treating sleep apnea can be life-changing. 5. Drink less. Heavy drinking raises blood pressure and triggers irregular heart rhythms, like atrial fibrillation. You don't have to quit entirely, but cutting back, even by a few drinks a week, can make a real difference. 6. Lose excess weight, especially around the belly. Visceral fat increases inflammation and insulin resistance. But here's the hopeful part. Losing just 5 to 10% of your body weight can dramatically improve your blood pressure, cholesterol, and sugar levels. Because instead of sitting in a rehab center, you could be walking in the park. Instead of relearning your words, you could be reading to your grandkids. Instead of hoping for one more chance, you could be living the one you already have. Alan didn't smoke. He wasn't overweight. He thought skipping dessert on Sundays meant he was eating healthy. But he hadn't seen a doctor in years. His blood pressure was high. His cholesterol was creeping up. And he thought that strange feeling in his hand didn't matter. He thought he had time. Now, Alan speaks slowly. He uses a wheelchair. He needs help getting dressed. And that 10-minute warning, the numb hand, the clumsy moment in the kitchen, that was his chance to change everything. But it passed. So let me ask you honestly, have you had a moment like that? A word that wouldn't come? A hand that didn't feel right? A flicker of something that didn't make sense? Did you tell anyone? Because these warnings don't shout, they whisper. And the longer you wait, the louder the consequences become. The truth is, the most dangerous stroke isn't always the one that hits without warning. It's the one you saw coming and ignored. But you don't have to follow that path. You've seen the signs. You've heard the stories. You know the science. Now, it's your move. If this video made you think, even for a moment, please share it. You never know whose life it might touch. A friend, a neighbor, a sibling, someone quietly wondering if their strange symptom means something. Instead of silence, let's send a signal. You still have time. Use it.